What's up, guys? Welcome back. So today I want to show you guys some teams that you all can use for offense for these 3v3 modes for Grand Arena. Talking mostly about trio teams. There are some certain characters that you could usually use by themselves or really plug and play and can counter a lot of teams depending on who you plug them in with. So I want to go over some of those characters too. So want to go through all that today. Sorry for only getting this up right before offensive mode starts. There's been family in town, been pretty busy with that, and work right before the holidays. It's always crazy. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into these teams. So the first team we're going to have here is a CLS lead with Raid, Han, and Chewie. This is a very well-established team. We already know it's probably going to be one of your better trios. It's very good for defense, very good for offense too. Anytime that Han and CLS move, they will call assists from Chewie. Chewie will apply tenacity down, do max health damage. Very solid squad here. This is definitely a go-to squad for a lot of people. If you don't have Raid, Han, or Chewie, you want to split things up, you can easily take out Raid, Han, and Chewie. Throw in Chirrut and Baze if you have them. This will really help up the counter chance for them. Chirrut can do a lot of damage, especially under that CLS lead. Baze is going to be a very solid tank here, and you're going to get a lot of tenacity up and healing because of Chirrut here. And overall, this team works really well. So if you want to run this instead of the Raid, Han, and Chewie variant, works very well. And if you want to use Raid, Han, and Chewie in another team, I really recommend you run them over another lead. And that lead could be something like this with a Lando lead, where the Lando leadership, he gives your Scoundrel and Rebel allies 15 speed and 29% crit damage. So if you want to split things up, run Chirrut and Baze with a CLS lead, and run Raid, Han, and Chewie under another lead that could work, you could use something like this. This is going to be more of your advanced players if you're trying to split up these teams. Most players are probably going to focus just on CLS, Chewie, and Raid, Han, but if you're able to split them out into two different teams, something like this will work really well. And I mean, under that Lando lead, Han and Chewie are going to do a lot of damage. Han almost crits all the time, so that crit damage bonus is going to be great here. So splitting up CLS, Raid, Han, and Chewie to two different teams can work something like this, but if that's only if you can afford it. Most of us are going to go strictly with the CLS, Raid, Han, and Chewie team. Now, we're sticking with Rebels right now, and this is another team, Wedge with Biggs and Stormtrooper Han. Very good team here with the Wedge lead. Rebel allies have bonus offense. They recover max health and 10 meter on critical hits, and they recover 25% of their max health whenever they defeat an enemy. Wedge and Biggs have very strong synergy here. You've got to pretty much keep them together because they get those bonuses with their uniques building off each other. Wiggs is always guaranteed to call in Wedge on his mass assist. So that always happens. You can use any kind of Rebel tank here. Stormtrooper Han works because he can feed turn meter to Wedge and Biggs. If you don't have them, you could try someone else here. There's not many good Rebel tanks out there that would work here. I mean, Ben Kenobi could work if you don't want to throw Ben into a sort of Jedi team. But also Scarif Rebel Pathfinder could work. K2SO could work. But really, Stormtrooper Han probably seems like the best fit for this team. Now, some other characters you can throw in here, by all means, throw in Princess Leia. She can give these allies crit chance up. So if you want to go for a pure offensive team that's you just want to do shock and awe and just wipe out the team before they can really do anything, a team like this is going to work great because that constant crit chance with Leia, and she's going to get called to assist with the Biggs attack. So she's going to give this team a lot of buffing. She can triple tap with her basic. So overall, this team very strong. And plus with that Wedge leadership, Leia is constantly going to gain a lot of bonus turn meter because of those constant critical hits that she's landing. So another Rebel team with something like this with the Wedge lead and Biggs. Throw in a Rebel tank if you want to. Throw in another damage dealer if you really want to go all out. Another team like this, very good for offense. So next up, we have a General Kenobi team with Barris and Darth Nihilus of all characters here. And pretty much what this team is about is basically keeping your team alive, holding it together, and allowing Darth Nihilus to wear down the enemy team. With this, especially if you have the Zeta on Barris, you don't have to, but it's highly recommended that you do. The Zeta on Barris is going to pretty much mean General Kenobi is going to be very hard to kill here because the Zeta on her unique heals up allies whenever they take crit damage. So with this and the General Kenobi lead, Jedi and clone allies gain 30% max health and 70% defense. That's pretty hefty. Makes your Jedi allies very tanky here. So a team like this you can use on offense for those teams that, you know, are really tough to crack. You know, they have a lot of revives or anything. You can throw Nihilus in with a team like this, and they'll basically keep Nihilus alive because Zeta Barris, or just a regular Barris, is here to constantly heal him up. And then anytime that you use a team healing ability, it calls all allies at full health to assist, dealing 50% less damage. You can then call the assist with Nihilus. He can dispel, reduce his cooldowns, anything like that. This team, I really like it for offense. We've seen variations of this with defense, with like a Fives in there or some other tanky clone characters. A team like this, very good for offense because it allows you to wear down some of those harder to kill teams, allows you to keep your team alive and not really having to worry about being worn down. So next up we have some Jedi, kind of mixing things up here. With that Jedi lead, all Jedi and clone allies gain bonus offense and 20% bonus crit damage, and whenever an ally is evaded, they gain advantage for 2 turns. A team like this, pretty solid. You have the buff and healing immunity with Anakin. Ezra brings a lot of damage to the table, and Ahsoka can actually heal up your team if she lands critical hits with her special. So overall, it's a pretty solid team. It has some sustainability with Ahsoka. You have a lot of damage between Ezra and Anakin, and you have those pretty solid debuffs because healing immunity and buff immunity, very strong debuffs for attacking a lot of these teams. So you're going to run into a lot of teams that really rely on healing and protection regeneration. Anything that can counter that, or anything that can counter like an auto taunt, that is something you want to use here. So an Anakin lead here can work. If you don't want to focus on that, and you do have something like a Zeta Qui-Gon Jinn lead, that could work great here. If you do have a Zeta Qui-Gon Jinn lead, I'd probably recommend that over the Anakin lead. But you can basically use Qui-Gon Jinn, throw in Ezra, and throw in Anakin. And here you go, you have a pretty solid team here now as well. They gain bonus offense equal to 3 times their speed. They gain foresight for 2 turns at the start of the match and anytime they defeat an enemy. Pretty much, this team hits really hard, it's very fast, overall pretty solid. So this is for more of those people who have a Zeta Qui-Gon Jinn. If you don't have that lead Zeta for Qui-Gon, go ahead and use an Anakin lead, throw in some other Jedi. You go for those attacking Jedi that can really hit hard. Other Jedi that can do a lot of crits, like Aayla Secura, also works here. Now, next up, we have an Emperor Palpatine lead with Vader and Shore Trooper. You don't have to use Shore Trooper here. I do like Shore Trooper because Palpatine's pretty squishy, and you have that auto taunt, the constant healing, and the crit immunity with Shore Trooper. So if you're worried that you're going to be losing Palpatine a lot when attacking, probably a good idea to throw in Shore Trooper here. The Palpatine lead really helps synergize with both Palpatine and Vader because they're both Empire and Sith, so anytime they land debuffs, they're going to recover health and they will also gain turn meter. You really want to throw Vader and Palpatine together on the same team. And then that Shore Trooper, like I said before, the constant healing, the crit immunity, the auto taunt, very desirable here because a lot of people will like to pick off Palpatine first, and really this means that Shore Trooper is here to help keep Palpatine alive. Use that Shore Trooper there if you cannot. If you can keep Palpatine alive without having to worry about a tank, you can throw in some other Empire characters. Tarkin works great here. Grand Admiral Thrawn we have our own team for as well. Krennic is pretty good lead, so you may want to use him with another team. But, I mean, there are some solid other options here that you can use with a Palpatine lead here. Pro Droid, if you want to go for some kind of character that's really tough to kill, Pro Droid will work great here. Use it as a team to help pick off some enemies. Really, a lot of solid options for another Empire slot to fit there if you don't need to use Shore Trooper. Now, we're staying with the Empire teams here, and this is pretty much the counter we see a lot for Traya, the Thrawn lead, Magma Trooper, and Death Trooper. Pretty much what's going to happen here is the leadership with Thrawn going to give a lot of turn meter to Empire allies whenever they resist or suffer a debuff or detrimental effect. 20% turn meter. Now you're going to combine that with Magma Trooper and his unique, where every time he suffers a debuff or resists a detrimental effect, he gains a lot of turn meter. 70% turn meter plus 20% from the Thrawn lead. You're going to use that against your Scion and your Traya, your Triumvirate Sith teams. And that's pretty much going to be the name of the game. You're going to use Magma Trooper to slowly wear down the enemy team, constantly use his AoE ability to remove their turn meter, and use your Death Trooper to eventually apply Death Mark. That way you can finally wear down those last couple of enemies. This is a very solid team to defeat a Triumvirate that you're going to face on defense, and you're more than likely going to see a lot of Triumvirate teams on defense. And here we go. How about some Resistance and C-3PO? Now, C-3PO is a brand new character. Some people don't have him because, you know, who wants to work on their Ewoks? Now, if you don't have C-3PO, there are definitely some very good substitutions for him. But overall, this team works great. The mass assist with C-3PO and applying exposes, it really works here. You're going to want the Zeta on the JTR lead. You just got to have it. And if you do have BB-8 here, and you pretty much want to use BB-8 with JTR, I highly recommend you go for this Zeta on BB-8. Whenever he attacks out of turn, he calls a random resistance ally to assist. That means he's going to be calling either JTR or C-3PO. C-3PO because he's a rebel and because of his unique, he can then apply exposes with his basic. So you get that, and it fuels a turn meter on all three of these characters. So very solid triumvirate here with these three, the resistance triumvirate in a way. If you don't have the C-3PO and you want to use some other characters, R2-D2 works great here. He's going to help buff up the health, protection, the damage, the potency. Overall, he's going to do a solid stat boost to your team. He's also going to be able to help them cleanse debuffs from themselves when they score critical hits. And the JTR lead gives resistance allies bonus crit chance and crit damage. So R2 works great here. He can also apply burn with his AoE basic that can't be evaded, and whenever time it lands a critical hit, it can expose, and also those critical hits are going to reduce the cooldown on Illuminated Destiny. So if you don't have C-3PO, R2-D2 works great here. And overall, very strong resistance team. You can probably use it to counter Revan. It's going to be tough, but the constant healing immunity from JTR, the assists and the exposes with this team, overall, you're looking at a team that could possibly beat those Revan Triumvirates, though it will probably be very sketchy. And let's go ahead and stick with another Resistance team here as well. Zeta Finn Lead, Poe Dameron, and Resistance Trooper. Now, we have seen some fun with C-3PO and the Finn Lead. However, in a Triumvirate like this with 3 characters, C-3PO is not very easy to squeeze in here. You're having to sacrifice someone. Poe applies AoE exposed with his taunt. He can inflict buff immunity. Resistance Trooper you have to have with Finn. I mean, you gotta have him. So if you're gonna take anyone out, you gotta take Poe out, but you're losing a taunt, and he's very, very good here because he also reduced turn meter in case you can't land those exposes. Now with Resistance Trooper and that Zeta Finn lead, which you will need the Zeta Finn lead for this, though Finn is still one of those Zeta leads that pretty much a lot of people have as one of their first leads because it makes resistance so good. With this, they gain a lot of bonus turn meter every time they land exposed damage. They have cooldowns reduced by 1. So a team like this, very strong. You will have some RNG problems if you can't land those exposes. If you can't land them, this team is gonna die. Poe's not a tanky tank. He's sort of like a light armor kind of tank. He's very fast. He's more there to just help support the team rather than keep it alive. So you will have to land the exposes here, so you want to help boost their potency, kind of help just make sure they can land those exposes. That's what you want to go for. So high potency build with these 3 characters. If you don't want to throw one of these characters in here, your options are very limited when it comes to resistance. The pilot will work great here, and that's pretty much it outside of C-3PO. So C-3PO or pilot, pretty much the only resistance characters you can throw to a team like this if you don't want to use Poe Dameron. So team like this, very good with exposes, just have to make sure you land those exposes. And we're here with a First Order team. Now, in my defensive video, I said a crew lead with Kylo Ren and First Order Executioner could be pretty solid here. Now, with a defense or with an offensive variation of this team, Phasma lead works great. You don't need the Zeta lead by any stretch of the imagination, but with this, you have a constant chance to call random allies to assist. They gain advantage if it's a First Order ally it's called to assist. And you also have another assist here with a Zeta First Order Stormtrooper. You don't need the Zeta here, don't worry, but if you do, him and under a Phasma lead could be very solid here because he can constantly call assist, and with this basic, he can dispel if he has advantage. And if he's called to assist under the Phasma lead, he's automatically going to give himself advantage. First Order TIE Pilot does a lot of damage. Phasma can give your whole team bonus turn meter and advantage, can apply speed down to the enemy team. Very good team here. So this is a very strong offensive team. I like the potential for it. I think that there is something we could see here with this team. If you don't want to use First Order Stormtrooper, you're losing your tank, or if you don't want to use Pilot, you have to make up that damage somewhere. Special Forces TIE Fighter Pilot works great here because he has another on-demand assist ability. A lot of people don't have him though. Officer can work here because he can reduce the enemy turn meter, he can reduce your cooldowns, and he can deal a lot of bonus damage if he has advantage. First Order Executioner also works because he can assist, drive up the turn meter on your team. He can land a lot of critical hits too. So I mean, a team under a Phasma lead, a First Order team under a Phasma lead, you can use a crew variation for defense and use a Phasma variation for offense as well. So consider splitting up your First Order team into 2 different sections, one for defense, one for offense, because there's a lot of potential here for Phasma lead with offense. So we are here at Plug and Play characters, and first up we have Enfys Nest. I mean, what more do you need to say about her? She's very annoying to kill if you don't have the right counter. Revan teams can beat her because of course they can, but if you're fighting against a CLS team and they focus on Enfys Nest, they're not going to have a good time because they're constantly reducing her turn meter and they can't do enough damage to prevent her bonus protection regeneration. So Enfys Nest, very strong against a CLS team that you fight on defense. Also can shred any Bastila team that you fight on defense too, especially if you have her Zeta, because she gains that stacking health steal. So she gains plus 2% crit damage and health steal stacking until the end of the fight anytime that an enemy loses a buff or a debuff. So she can dispel on her basic, she can apply expose on her basic, she can apply daze. She's very good against being a lot of different teams in there. So Bastila defensive teams, she's a go-to character for defeating them because they're going to call a lot of buffs because of Bastila. And also, if you're fighting a CLS team, Enfys Nest is great for countering them because they just can't kill her. She's very good here. Another plug-and-play character that I've actually seen work really well that, you know, a lot of people, if I can even type his name in correctly, I suck at spelling today. There we go. Kylo Ren, if you have his Zeta, which it's going to be very difficult to do if you don't have a Zeta. With his Zeta here, Outrage, he recovers protection equal to the damage dealt with this ability. Now, with this ability, he is going to be able to constantly regenerate protection on himself, and he gains stacking offense and defense anytime he takes damage. He's very, very tough to kill, and if you can't kill him and you're just wailing away on him, he's going to return it tenfold, and he is just going to annihilate your team. It's not fun to fight him. So, Kylo Ren, Enfys Nest, both very, very solid plug-and-play characters. I mentioned Nihilus in that General Kenobi team earlier. Nihilus is another character that really you can throw into a lot of teams because of his Annihilate ability. He's a very good plug-and-play character here. So if you're fighting a couple different teams that have like constant revives or characters that are healing themselves up constantly and you just can't kill them, Nihilus is a great way to counter that because his Annihilate can't be evaded, and once that character is killed by Annihilate, they cannot be revived. You have something similar with Jango Fett and the Bounty Hunters, and overall, this kind of preventing a revive is very strong for fighting these trio teams, because a lot of your trio teams are going to be relying on healing, protection regeneration, and also reviving characters. So a character that can prevent the reviving, that is a very strong offensive character in my opinion. So that is gonna be it for this video, guys, with these trio teams that you guys can use. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. I try to keep things a little more friendly for you guys today. There were some complaints about my last video not being free to play friendly enough, so I tried to give you guys some more options here, and hopefully I don't cut out too much content. That was another thing, was that the video was 16 minutes long. There's about 10-15 minutes of content I cut out of it. So if you guys want to see these longer sort of like director's cut videos where I just go over everything and just spill it all out, if you guys want to survive a 25-minute video, let me know about that. I could probably do as an unlisted video so you guys could see it, you know, whatever. So let me know what you guys think about this video. If you guys have enjoyed it, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks again for watching. I will talk to you guys later.